Hello? There we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. How's it going?
Cool, pretty good. You?
I'm doing alright. I found a couple bugs in my game that I'm kind of mad about right now, but I'll get to them after the lesson.
Ah, I was actually going to ask about that. How's Breakneck going?
It's going pretty well.
But,
We're making some pretty good progress. Doing our best to get a beta out by the end of the year or close to it, hopefully. But
how many people do you have working on it?
just me and a guy who does the art and music.
Ah, cool. Little indie team.
Yeah, literally only two people. But
Hey, man, Hollow Knight's only like 3 people, so.
yeah, those guys are crazy. They made so much content.
Yeah, all hand drawn too. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. All right, so can you give a quick introduction for the stream as to who you are, where you're from, how long you've been playing, what your goals are with the game, stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, my tag's Wombat. In other places like Twitch and some other things, it's Angelic Horsey. It's an anagram of my first and last name, which is pretty fun. I play Falco. I've pretty much been playing Falco since like sometime in the late aughts. Obviously, I've been playing this game since I was like, or not obviously, but I've been playing it since I was a kid. Got into understanding like competitive mechanics, maybe like '06 or something. Played it on and off and didn't really put actual dedication into it until like 2015 to 2017. And then I got back into it with rollback lately. Pretty much just play Falco. I've played around with Young Link before because I didn't really like the Ices matchup, and that was my poor solution. I don't know. It's just go to Dreamland, just run around with bombs.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's funny.
Well, also he's Young Link's got a lot of cool tech, you know.
Mm-hmm.
CX play him, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and then you realize you don't have any of the frame perfect movement that he does. I mean, this is really just a hobby for me, but I do want to be good at it. I like learning things, and Melee has never, I've never gotten bored with it, you know? There's sometimes stuff that you can get into and it seems really cool, and then once you like learn enough about it, you're like, I'm fine or whatever. But
Yeah, it's pretty cool
Melee
that
is very fun.
There's always more to think about.
And there's even like different levels on things to think about. Like what happened? I knew or I had the answer to a situation against Fox where Fox is just fast. Fox is approaching me. What's one of the things that I want to do? And I would do like an in-place down air, or maybe like a neutral jump towards down air, but not really committing. And my thought was, okay, this will catch Fox in his approach. But like that was it. There was no further details on that situation. And I forget, it was one of probably the Falco Discord or something, and somebody pointed out that like that is more specifically supposed to catch running shine, because back air, you know, an auto canceled back air in place would stop certain approaches, but running shine can go under that. And it was like, you know, just that other little layer of understanding is really fun for the game.
Yeah,
So,
I really like that. Like, when you look at a situation, the answer is never simple. You're always able to say, "Oh, what if we kind of did this?" And I think like being able to continually find counterplay in situations that seem simple at first is like really what makes the game shine.
yeah. Plus, I cannot think of another game that has the current amount of like practice capabilities with all the
Yeah, the community has
nerds.
set up so many crazy things.
Yeah, have you played around with the new 3.0?
No, not yet. I'll get to it, but I haven't yet.
Oh, it's so cool. Really the biggest thing being that you can now contribute by writing in C instead of using assembly.
Ooh, that's
That's
pretty nice.
yeah, right? Don't have to go to some
I'll have to take a
Nintendo
look at
proprietary
that.
thing. Ugh.
I'll have to see if there's anything I want to add on.
Yeah, I was mostly just trying to steal like one of the Ledge Tech Marth Up B event. I wanted
Mhm.
to. They have a distance calculation function for Marth to trigger his down B. And I was like,
Oh,
ooh, distance calculation based triggers in like a 20xx replay system would be awesome. Like that,
that's
you
pretty
know, the
interesting. Yeah, I
biggest
can't even
example.
imagine what this stuff will look like in 5 years.
Oh yeah, or even a few months from now, the fact that you can actually do stuff with C or all the anytime
Hmm.
there's a new update, it's wild. But yeah, if you could do like distance-based triggers, you could have a Marth dash dancing until you get close, and then you could do dash back grab. So you could just practice that situation over and over and over.
True.
Uh,
Yeah, it'll probably be mostly useful for edge guard stuff and like sort of things that are more repetitive, whereas dash back is like a little bit more nuanced. But I
well,
who knows where it'll go, you know?
so the way that you responded like true to the dash back thing was one of the it kind of leads me into one of the questions or things that I wanted to talk about being
Okay, cool.
what do you think about like making a replay scenario and then like let's say it's just one that I've done is a fox dash dancing and then like a full hop drill or full hop nair onto my shield into shine wave dash up smash or jab. So, I forget if it was thunders or something, but just practicing that situation kind of over and over to get familiar with timings, like when you can jump into the drill, if you can, like when you can take all of that and then like wave dash into the fox trying to jab, or basically just like practicing the same situation over and over again for familiarity. How much
Yeah, I
value do
think
you
I
see in
think
that?
stuff like that is actually like incredibly useful. Like I think that it's maybe hmm like maybe if people are like a lot lower skill level and they're sort of still learning to like move their character correctly and stuff like that, it might not be quite as useful. But I think as you get to higher level, like that type of stuff becomes more and more useful. So I think that like basically by having better tools to do stuff like that, I think it'll make the meta progress a lot because the best players will be able to practice the situations that come up the most often. Like I think that basically like at lower level, a lot of times situations don't actually come up quite as often because they're not like as fleshed out. Or if they do come up, then people like aren't aware of the differences between situations quite as much. But if you've already broken down a situation like completely into all its different options and then have a replay system to like go over each option, I think it's really good regardless. So like maybe there's a situation where Fox up B's to ledge and you just want to practice drop from ledge, back airing, Fox up B to ledge, then like having that on a replay I think would be incredibly useful. And like when you practice something like that over and over and over, and then you go into the game, it feels totally different when it happens. Like even if you're not thinking about your practice, when the situation comes up, your brain will just like snap into that zone because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, that was mostly what well, I mean in that specific example, I have trouble with knowing when to I guess jump into a drill if that's how I want to handle that situation by like
Mm-hmm.
going to ground and then shining. Um but in a lot of cases, yeah, it was just like I just wanted familiarity with the situation because Fox is so fast. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know there are some things that I can react to, but sometimes it just happens and you're like, "Damn, that happened."
Yeah.
um
No, that's very true. Yeah, like I think you're not going to be able to practice every possible situation for it, but sort of just setting up the basic situation, like because like at least if you can always cover the basic situation and you know how to deal with the most basic version of whatever happens, then like it's much easier to tell the differences that happen in a non-standard situation. Whereas if you don't have like the basis of being able to counter the basic situation the right way every time, then it's a little harder to like structure things because you don't have the basis to work off of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was kind of it certainly helped me out in the situations I've practiced where it's like, oh, my practice thing didn't work, but now I understand why it didn't work instead of just being entirely confused by the situation altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually. I was when I was talking to you before. I said, or I think I said, I have trouble, like I guess, finding a specific match or VOD to go over because I don't really make it. I guess depending on the bracket too far, and you know, there's many sets where I was like, you know what, I was just so off that like that's not worth analyzing.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have an interesting. I think it was an LRA start last night. I had a really close round one match against a Sheik, and then I lost. And when I went to losers, I had a much less close loss to a different Sheik.
Okay.
And I don't know how much time it would be to go through all of that, but that was one idea. Another one was if we can just play, and then like I can just pause at certain points and ask questions about what just happened, or I like how well you commentate your own play while playing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Appreciate
if
that.
I actually heard somebody doing that while I was playing, I could maybe take some of it in better. I feel that one of my issues is going between uh, overthinking while playing and then also wanting to switch back to autopilot to actually be like competent with movement.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Uh,
so is there a particular matchup that you want to go over, or so it's kind of like basically like we can go over a Slippy VOD, or we can go over like one of the VODs, or like and like we can go over a VOD but like kind of quickly if you want. Like we don't have to, spend the whole lesson on like the Sheik set you have recorded or whatever. So it's kind of up to you how you want to spend the time. And like we can play, but like if you're looking for Fox, like right now I'm not really playing Fox, so
I
I would
wouldn't even mind Falco. I mean, you could play whoever, really.
yeah. Well, if you're looking
I,
for a particular matchup, like I can play pretty much all the characters except for Fox right now.
yeah, Fox is definitely one that I have more trouble with, but so is Falco, but in like a weird way, because I never feel like I'm having an even match against another Falco.
Mm-hmm.
It always feels like I'm beating them hard or they're beating me hard. And actually, I would probably get the most return for more Falco matchup knowledge since it's like the most fucking popular character. But
Okay, so yeah, we can start by playing and then going over the Slippy a little bit, or we can start by going over the VOD against the Sheik. The thing is most of the time, what'll happen is even if a VOD isn't your best or something like that, or like even if you're playing really bad, a lot of times there's like repetitive issues that will come up that are separate from that. Like even if you have a match where you miss all your combos and you SD, there might be like, because a lot of times the issue is more like mental in the sense that like you don't have like good structuring of like what positions to move into and whatever, rather than it being like, oh, you're just playing bad, so like I'm not going to be pointing out like, oh, you need to hit your tech skill and stuff like that.
yeah, that's why I wouldn't mind going over. I'd like to go over those two Sheik sets because it was the same matchup with very different results and kind of obviously understand what you think about what I'm doing, but also help me understand the two different Sheik playstyles, I guess, that I was
Okay.
going against.
Yeah, we can. I'm down to go over that, but then like try to keep it like a little quick so we still have some time to like play and go over those if you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Or we can
I
do it
can.
the opposite order. It doesn't matter to me. It's all up to you.
Now we can start with that. I'll give my hands a little bit of rest because I was playing Schmoop before this.
Okay.
I can send you. Yeah, here's the. Oh, my files are too powerful. What?
Oh, I hate that. Is it like, are you sending me? So you're sending me like a
I'm sending you Slippy replay
Slippy
files.
replay? Okay, and it's not letting you.
I think one of them is too big.
That's
So
crazy. I've never had a Slippy replay be too big.
Yeah, that one's actually really big. I don't know why. It's 8 megs is the limit, and this is like 8.5.
All right, yeah, you can email me.
I'll send the other two that way.
If you wanted to, also. Otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Is there a delay on your stream for me?
Yeah, don't worry. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be screen sharing for you
okay,
on
cool.
Discord.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to see this.
Yeah. Oh, and I know you know this, but I'm going to reiterate it again. Your YouTube is so hard to find.
I know, I know. I don't know what to do about it. I tagged my videos and everything, and it just doesn't seem to matter. So I don't really know. I'll have to talk to somebody about it. But apparently even when people are like looking for my YouTube, they can't find it, so it's kind of annoying. Okay.
If you actually search Fiction 52, it comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. Because like when I look for it, it seems kind of easy to find, but I've definitely heard from a bunch of people that it's very difficult to find. So that's the important thing, and it's kind of... Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out and talk to somebody about it later. Alright, so you can see this, right?
Yes, I can.
Alright, you still looking for the other slippies?
I got them all. I'm sending them to you.
Okay.
Email sent. Oh no, I didn't want to pop out.
Alright, yeah, just let me know when you're ready to start this one. I have it up.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I'll watch it for a second. I like the combo you did. That was good. Okay. Alright, so there's definitely a few things to go over already, but I'll watch it for a second and then we can start it over. And I'll talk about it. So, what is your general game plan against Sheik?
I'm definitely still working on that one. I feel like it's one of my lesser focused matchups, but it's laser low to avoid the boosts.
Yeah.
Try and pay attention to the like needle triangle and not get hit by that when she's on platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's kind of I feel like I just want to run over Sheik. Which is partially like just general Falco player holding forward, but it's also I've just gotten a lot of returns for it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm also usually thinking about not getting DI mixed up from like forward tilt. So if they're gonna hit me twice with forward tilt, I've been pretty good at least DIing the second one away. But there's still plenty of times where I'll run into one and I'm like, I should have known that was gonna happen and not getting like caught in it. And I guess if Sheik is putting any sort of like pressure on my shield or near me, I'm usually waiting for like that second hit before I try to act.
Okay, yeah, so
that's kind of it right now.
One of the things it looks like you said, you haven't really practiced the matchup all that much. It looks like, at least from so far, that you might not be paying quite enough attention to what your opponent is seeing. And so this is something that PPMD talks about a lot with Falco, is that like every motion you do is going to affect your opponent in some way, because it implies like what you're going to do in the future. And they can only respond, or not that they can only respond, but like if they react to what you're doing, then they have certain options that will do well against what you are basically projecting you're about to do. And so I'll give like an example. Okay, so you start off and you're right here, so nothing's really happening yet. This is pretty awkward for you to just kind of wave dash back into the corner and kind of corner yourself here. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. And I think that basically you basically, this only works if Sheik does like a dumb dash attack right here. And I think it's important to, like, basically the first thing you want to do is try to like establish some form of like control over the space, a lot of times using laser. So like you're using these lasers here. So look, you create the space. So there's no reason to create space here rather than like establish laser control. Like literally if you do a laser right here, there aren't any options that Sheik can ever do to get you to stop you from lasering. So you go back, you wave dash back, and you do like a high laser here. I'm not going to worry about the laser high, but you wave dash back and you do a laser. It's like this laser is not intended to gain control of anything. And therefore, it leaves the entire game open for the opponent to do things that will just beat you. So, like, I think... Okay, I'll try to explain it better as we go forward. So, you haven't tried to gain control yet. So now you go for this approaching laser, which is an attempt to gain control of the space. So that's good. So you do this, and then Sheik goes to the platform here. I guess this laser's okay. It's not too big of a deal. So you're underneath the platform here. This is like a situation where Sheik basically almost always just like drops onto you. So you can kind of just throw out moves down here or try to go up and hit her. The one thing you never want to do here is dash dance because like it's not going to actually help you. But okay, so you get out of the way, you come down. This is good. I really like this. Obviously you could have done more here, but that's not a big deal. So now you're kind of back in this neutral situation here, and it's like, okay, so like right here, what are you thinking that Sheik is going to do here? Or like, what is your perception of Sheik?
Right there, I'm thinking...
Like here, yeah.
Well, she just got in shield, and then I jumped.
Well, yeah, but she got in shield basically as you jumped. You can't react to that. Like just the way it worked, it was kind of like... So it's kind of like, here, you're reacting to her shielding, and you're like this. Basically, like, the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't really seem like you're considering what Sheik can be doing here. Like, this only works if she wave dashes in. And then if she doesn't wave dash in and she wave dashes down or jumps and goes for a back air or something, you're just going to get hit. So I think it's like, when you're in a situation like that, you really want to focus on trying to gain control of the situation. Like, rather than being like, okay, this is a situation, I don't really have control of it, so I'm going to kind of read that she does something and hope that it works. You want to use a laser, and you also want to space yourself such that, like, you set up a situation that you are comfortable with, rather than just sort of going for something like that.
Sense. I tend to just do a lot of moves.
Yeah, or like stuff like this. Like, you don't really want to come in against Sheik from an angle like this. This is just sort of like a minor thing. But like right here, like, Sheik is never... Like, just the way her moves work, this sort of thing is almost never going to work against her. Like, because she both has this nair out of shield that the Sheik does, which is, you know, just as good as... it. Like, this hits on the same frame as Falco's shine out of shield. So, like, if you're going to do, like... You would never do, like, an aerial coming down that starts here on a Falco who's shielding here, so you shouldn't do it on a Sheik. And a lot of times, she's just going to...
That's actually a repeated note that I have.
A repeated note? Is the...
Yeah, well, I'll take notes when I look up my own VODs, and one of the things that I consistently notice is that I'll come down from high with aerials, and get, like, counterattacked. Like, instead of drifting or instead of not coming down directly on top of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that might just be I want to get back in the fray and hit her kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's what it is that, like, you're stuck in kind of this awkward position right here. And like when you're up above the platform, like, this is kind of like an awkward spot. And so I think when you see this is kind of like that forward smash you did before, where you kind of see a spot and it's kind of awkward, and you don't really want to worry about having to, like, wait on the platforms and find a way down, or... So, like, it's kind of a situation where you're like, oh, I'm kind of scared of her, but, like, I'm kind of unsure also. And a lot of times it looks like you kind of just go for the attack in those situations. And like sometimes that'll work out, but like ultimately that's not the most solid way to play. Like basically like you should be playing in a way where you have the most control over the results of the match. And there are a lot of ways to play Falco which give the opponent control of the match, but maybe make things a little difficult for them, like an execution test type thing. And those are pretty good with Falco. Like, they're surprisingly powerful that he can, you've probably done this exact dare a bunch of times, and people jump into it or something and get hit, and then you just kill them. But it doesn't give you control of the situation. Like, you want to play in a way that, like, you will win as often as possible, and this does not give that to you. So even if sometimes it works out for you, it's not helping you improve as a player because you're not trying to actively control the situation.
So should I have not even gotten into that position?
Well, getting up into this position, it will happen. You can figure out also whether you, like, if you keep ending up in a situation that you don't like, then you can look and say, okay, why am I ending up there? Maybe I shouldn't be ending up there. But, like, jumping up and you're kind of up here, like, that's going to happen all the time. And you sort of have to become comfortable with actually working your way down rather than just sort of, like, kind of just giving up on the situation and going for something.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this right here looks to me like lack of Sheik matchup knowledge, where you just kind of shield here. Because, like, I don't really think that there's, like, unless Sheik is just literally blindly dash attacking in, like, this shield isn't great. And even if she was, like, a down air in place would probably beat dash attack or the grab here. Like, I'd be more worried about the boost grab here. So shielding is maybe not the best response to her just kind of moving in a little bit. That's a good point. And then, like, once she's already in the air, I think this is a pretty good response because you realize that, like, she's already in the air, she can't really get that close to you. So I think this is really good. And then for some reason you just don't act quickly enough out of it. Okay, so you get her off stage. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, that was fine in terms of mix-ups. This must have been a missed input. This doesn't make any sense to roll.
The roll?
Yeah. There's no way that was... You were probably trying to, like, angle your shield or something. Because I don't think any Falco would ever do that on purpose. Okay, so look, here's a situation where you have a chance to get control, to throw a laser, and also be at that awkward spacing where she can't really hit you very easily. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like when you're here and she's kind of like here, and she can't really, like, forward tilt you, and she can't aerial you, and she kind of has to, like, dash to get closer. But, like, so look, you have her in the corner. She is in lag from a move. But you don't capitalize on the situation to go for a laser, like, right here. And you're not even trying to punish it. Instead, you run all the way across the stage, and you put yourself in this awkward spot where you're up here. Where, like, there was no reason for any of that to occur because you were already in a good spot right here. And now you're in a spot where now you're cornered. So you, like, with him doing literally nothing to you, you got from a spot where he was frame negative in the corner, and you turned into a situation where you're in the corner.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's just something to pay attention to, that, like, you should always be looking to assert control of the situation rather than, I guess, being, worried about what your opponent can do to you there. See, notice how much worse this feels for him when you're using the lasers to actually, like, control the space. It feels much worse from his perspective. And you dodged the dash attack. That was really good. And I can move a little bit quicker if you want to do that. I don't want to spend the entire time.
We can definitely move quicker.
Yeah.
Just maybe like an overarching thing if you keep seeing the same thing pop up.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of times, like, the thing with gaining control of the situation, I think that will probably come up multiple times just based on, like, watching. Like, that's like something that people don't really do accidentally. Like, they don't really give up control accidentally. typically something that will come up quite a bit if it happens. And also the sort of like getting desperate. This is a small note right here. Is if Sheik is on the platform, you either want to be right here so she can never go off the platform and hit you, or you want to be directly under the platform. Because then she gets that sort of thing.
I feel like I'm still weird about the trying to space around not getting hit by a needle, and that puts me in odd positions.
Yeah, it's like you either kind of need to be like right here or like right here, and then there's this whole area here which is kind of awkward, and this is sort of where like the mix-ups take place of like you're kind of here and she can't get you, and you act like maybe you're gonna go in here, and then she throws a needle but you're not actually there, and you're kind of doing this, and then you kind of push forward to like this zone. I actually went over that situation with Duck for like an hour, like only a couple days ago. It's like pretty awkward, but the important thing is to never commit when you're in this zone, because look, then he gets the hit on you right there. It's kind of about sneaking from here to here using whatever methods you can.
So am I sneaking, but also waiting for like Sheik to jump or fall off? I'm not actually trying to hit her while she's on the platform. Is that kind of the general idea?
You can try to hit Sheik when she's on the platform, but only after you're already underneath it.
Yeah. So once I've gotten like.
So
really
it's basically
far
the goal is
the
that she's
area.
up here. If you're like underneath the opposite platform, she can't really do anything to actually like get to you. And so you're kind of here, and you're kind of just waiting and sort of like poking in. Because like, let's say you poke in here, like you're going to come to this spot, but you're still holding this area over here. And she like runs off and fares. Well, you're not actually here. You were just kind of feigning that by being over here and doing like this little dash dance. So if she runs off and fares here, you can just punish that. And so you end up in a situation, or if she needles here and you actually run deeper under, like right here, then you can start mixing her up because you're actually underneath the platform. It's like sort of just this space right here, so you kind of like play out of it like right here, and then kind of try to get her to commit, and then if she doesn't, then you can kind of, like this, and then like go past. So like that's basically like the range that neutral is played in. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
So if I'm not waiting for her to commit, but I somehow do get to sneak under her, like what are my options when I'm under her? Because it seems like she can fall through and hit me pretty easily.
Well, she's actually in a way worse position than you, because you can CC there, you can up tilt there, you can.
Oh yeah, I need to CC more.
You can up air and try to like poke on the platform. You can. You can also do a thing where you can like full hop bear and like hit her shield as you go to the top plat, like full hop bear drift to the top platform. Or you can do a thing where you do like you can do full hop shine on her shield and then double jump to the top platform. Like there's ways you can pressure her, but a lot of times, like if you're Sheik and Falco is right underneath the platform, you're kind of in a weird spot, because like as long as he's not dash dancing, as soon as he dash dances, you're like sick, like let's go. Because if he's not dash dancing, you have to worry about him CCing your aerials, which maybe isn't the most common option, but more so you have to worry about him just up tilting. Like if Falco just sits here and does up tilt, like as the Sheik, that's pretty scary for you. Like you have to really get the timing super right, and a lot of times you almost have to read the timing to even get past the up tilt, the repetitive up tilts. And so like dropping feels like a really awkward option. And then, so you kind of want to like wave dash off the platform over here, but then Falco can still kind of, hit you while you come off the platform. And then if you jump, now you're up in the air and Falco's on the ground. So like the main idea is that you just want to get underneath her and just use up tilts and stuff like that, so she can't really comfortably drop, and it puts her in like a way worse position than if you're here, where if you're like right here in this position and she runs off and aerials you, she can be aggressive here. But she can also be defensive by just dropping here. But if you're here, she no longer has this option. All she has is a dangerous retreat here or a gamble by doing a runoff.
Okay.
And they really like to abuse that position, so it's like it becomes like a very important part of the neutral game to play. See, there's a spot where just because you were kind of close, like right here, like he's not thinking here like, hey, yeah, I'm totally gonna like drop onto Falco and hit him. He's going like, Falco's right here. Like Falco can do all kinds of things. He's afraid of jump, shine, waveland. He's afraid of full hop anything. You know, you can jump here and then double jump away back air. You can short hop up air and poke his feet. You can just spam up tilt here. So he's worried about that, and you win the mix up out of that. So that was some funny.
Yeah, that was weird.
It threw him off. Okay, so like here you are in neutral. Your first goal should be to establish ground control on Sheik. So you do that, and yeah, so you got him there. Good. Establish the control. Go in. Okay, this is fine. I wouldn't recommend doing this.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't either.
Okay, so you have the situation. Okay. Okay. See, I don't care about stuff like this. If you die out of this, that literally doesn't matter. That's just like everyone, like that's obviously like a dumb mistake. That's not something that like you might be like, I'm looking for the things that you think are good that aren't good, not the things we both know are bad.
Yeah.
So here's kind of this situation again, where you're kind of awkwardly on the top platform, and like what you should really be doing here is probably going to the side platform or just coming down as fast as you can. Sort of coming down like aggressively like this is a pretty bad idea against Sheik. She's really good at just sort of wave dashing around, dropping aerial spacings, which you've probably noticed because they always wave dash back and then dash dance grab, like when you do stuff like that. And
yeah,
so,
or forward tilt.
Or forward tilt, or up tilt, or like all of her moves just beat that kind of thing. So you really want to watch out for that. Then you kind of end up in this situation where you just sort of go for this forward smash. But once again, like this forward smash wasn't from a... Wow, that's Slippy Glitch. The forward smash wasn't from a position where you had control. It was strictly like hoping that he gets hit by it. There, that down air was good. So it's like you want to put Sheik in positions using both your lasers and your spacing where the Sheik has significantly less options, because then it becomes a lot more manageable. Whereas if you just sort of throw out moves, like the complexity, you know, you might have like a 1 out of 8 chance of being right, whereas if you can narrow down her options, you have like a 1 out of 3 chance of being right, or a 1 out of 2 chance of being right.
It's a good way to point it out.
Hmm?
That's a good way to point it out. I'm making a bad gamble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a grab without the control. See, when you approach with control, like here's the difference between like a grab that you just sort of do, right here. There's no indication that this grab will work at all, and you just sort of go for it, and it doesn't work, and he hits you, and you probably could have lost the match out of that. But here's a grab where you have control over the situation, and you get the grab, and it works. So it's like you really want to get him into the zone where like he has to play by your rules, and then you can be as aggressive as you want because he's already sort of like agreed to play by your rules. Whereas if you're just sort of going for things, like he could be doing anything, you know, there's no like I said, what you want is you want your victory. Like you'll never have 100% chance of victory, but what you want to do is you want to stack the odds in your favor. So anything you can do to fight in positions that are better for you is beneficial. So it's like, do I want to fight? It's like basically, you know, if you had like God mode powers in the game and you could just grab each character and move them into a different position, you know, like you want Sheik in the corner, you want Sheik like getting hit by a laser, and you're at this specific spacing where like you can still down air her but she can't really hurt you with her things. And it's like now you're in a spot where like regardless of the option you choose, it just is better overall because like you did your mix up in a better situation. Whereas there's plenty of situations where like the risk reward is not good, and if it doesn't matter sort of what mix-ups you go for, or if they work sometimes, like you said, you get like a lot of mileage out of certain things. Like the mileage of it doesn't matter as much because like it's not stacking it so you never lose, basically, or you're not putting things together in a way that like will maximize your chances of victory.
Understood.
Okay, so I only see one Slippy in the Discord. I'm not sure if you wanted to go over more Sheik stuff or if you wanted to
I
play.
emailed you the rest of them.
Got it, got it.
This one's included, so it'll be the second link under, what did I say, winners round?
Okay, which one do you want to go for? Which game do you want to go over the most?
Continuing this set is probably better because it was more even, and I kind of have. I know in the second one I was just tunnel visioning to a Sheik doing edge cheese.
Okay.
So the second winners round file.
Okay, you got control, and that situation worked out great because you got control of the Sheik and you did your mix-up. So up till this point, this isn't really a mix-up. I mean, this is like an opening mix-up, but like we'll ignore that. So you're like kind of right here. So it's like if you just forward smash right here, or you like randomly like run with a down air, that's not a situation where you have like control yet. So you can't actually limit their options. So it's good to do these lasers, and now you have this case, and now Sheik is like, what's gonna happen? So Sheik has to worry about all these potential options of you coming in with down air, coming in with nair, doing an approaching laser here, jumping up to the platform and then trying to drop on her. She has to worry about all this stuff, or even just running in and shine grabbing. So because she has to worry about all of those things, that makes this, when you do this, that much better. And you get the opening out of it. Yeah, here's kind of this situation again. So notice that like when she does this needle here, that because you're far enough away from her, so you get hit by this, but it happens. I'm not gonna worry about that too much. So you dodge this, so she goes up to the platform again, but notice that because you're far enough away, these needles don't really have like a threat to you. I don't really like going up to the top platform to challenge that, but it worked out okay there. So here's an example of like this nair that doesn't make sense. This is like that same concept coming up of like you don't have control of the situation, and so she could be doing literally anything here. So this nair doesn't really mean anything, and I understand that like basically like this nair will hit her if she tries to immediately approach you, but there's other options that you could do that cover her immediate approach without putting yourself at risk. So it's like if you think she's going to immediately dash attack or something like that, or like run in here, then like you can, maybe move back a little step and laser and see if she actually does do that, rather than heavy committing with like a nair like this. Because if you're doing this nair against anyone who is sufficiently good, you are just going to lose the game. Like this is like a game loser nair, where they're just like, oh, okay, free, and they just dash dance grab you and they zero death tech chase because they're spark and you lose.
Sense. I know that I tend to just want to hit things a lot, and that's adding weights and more, like what you're saying with control is.
Yeah, like a good way to look at it is like you'll get to hit things more often when you have control of a situation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So like wanting to hit the thing doesn't do any good when you're not in a situation. It's like, if you had just randomly jabbed, you're not going to get random jabs. But because you do this laser and you set it up really nice, yeah, you get these jabs for free. You get to hit him. Okay, this is fine. It's fine. That was okay. He just read you. Okay, so right here, you're kind of like looking to get back, and I'm glad I haven't seen you do any like dumb commitments here. So that was good. Like this was actually really good because you fought your way back over like a long period. Then you got the laser control and went for a mix-up, and it worked out, and you got the damage. But then you immediately are like, you're like, oh, I dropped my combo, and you're like, time to get him, and it's like you can't do that because you no longer have actual control of the situation. So it's like you want to put yourself in positions where you get to choose what happens rather than throwing something out and your opponent gets to choose what happens.
And I've definitely gotten that from looking at your other lessons and copious other top players' analysis videos.
Mm-hmm. normal stuff. Okay, that was good. Yeah, like pretty much almost every time against this guy that like you actually do the correct laser setup first, you're just winning the neutral. So
Yeah, it's actually I didn't really notice that during the game.
yeah, so in a situation like this where you're kind of stuck here in this spot, that you don't really want to like stay here. Like when he jumps up like this, you can just wave dash under up tilt, like do like wave dash up tilt here. It's either like you either retreat like you did here or wave dash under up tilt, but you don't want to like remain here like you kind of did for a second. Yeah, look, you get under the platform. Look at this. So look, you get under the platform, and he's like, oh no. So he gets out of this, but right here, he's not thinking he's about to drop and hit you. You know, he's trying to get away. Like from the opponent's perspective, Falco being underneath him at that angle. Yeah, so this is like a spot where you gotta watch out for this, where like you're right here, but you're still worried about him, whereas like you could be aggressing right here.
Yeah, I think it was one of the more salient points. Was I think I was watching some lesson that you were doing with Tom's, and he, or I think it was a little doc that he made about approaches, like preemptive play, and you made the point that you should expand the thought of like what approaches should I do and why would you do those approaches, and instead add on what is your opponent doing, and that's how you should dictate like what you're about to do. And that's been helping me out a little bit more because I used to just think of it as like, okay, am I going to do, you know, laser aerial? Am I going to dash dance, like laser dash back, do something? And I've been trying to think more like, what is the opponent doing and how am I going to do something against that?
Yeah, that's good. I think actually working on that more will help. Also, I think sort of the biggest thing is from watching these two matches, outside of the stuff that we've already mentioned, I think the biggest deal that I can see, because honestly, like overall, your play is pretty coherent, like more so than most of the people I tutor. I think, where like you're kind of at that level where like the stuff that you do makes enough sense that it's almost hard to see exactly like what you could be doing better, where it's like it's hard to describe it, where it's kind of like the way you're playing the game is like sorry about that. It's like it's kind of loose. Like the way you're playing is kind of loose. And so because of playing kind of loose, it's harder to pinpoint specific ways to improve. And
okay.
So like
I think I know what you mean.
Because
there's not like a clear cut response.
Because of like let's say like if you see, like I think that there's not enough flow charting to be able to like point out flaws in the flow chart where you're. So I think what like honestly I think what would probably help you improve the most is try to look at the game a bit more scientifically, or like from more of like an analytical perspective, because it looks very intuitive when I'm watching you play, where you kind of see the opponent and they're kind of roughly in a position and you're sort of calculating like what moves you've kind of done in those positions that have worked before and just kind of using those. But like the lack of like a coherent game plan, like I said before with like the thing with jumping into the Fox drill to practice it, and then like by understanding the most basic situation really well, then when things go wrong, you can say, okay, it went wrong because it is different from the basic situation for X reason. It's like because there's not that strong of a game plan in your play, even in like specific situations, it doesn't really seem like you're moving towards like specific intent of like fulfilling your plans, then it's a lot more difficult to tune it up. because there's less like specifics, or like there's less of like a basis to like tune off of.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely agree with that. I've been a very intuitive player up until, I guess, only really Slippy since like July, where I tried to actually look at situations a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think you could definitely be doing that. Like just basically like continue sort of heavily looking at like individual situations. And I was telling this to someone in the last lesson I gave too, where like try to recategorize success as from winning the game. Like winning and losing the game, it feels good to win, it feels bad to lose, but neither winning nor losing the game has any effect on improvement.
I don't care about either of those. It's usually whether or not I did something I wanted in the game.
Okay, good. So you're already at that point. And so I think that it's really about focusing on executing the game plan correctly, more so than what works or what doesn't, like in terms of the individual situation. And so I think that like when you analyze your own matches, you could probably be like, what I would say is try to make an extra simple game plan against the character. Like try to make a game plan against Sheik, for example, where you mostly focus on like two or three things. Where you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this spacing on the laser, and then I'm just gonna do a mix up. I'm just gonna nair in or whatever, and then try to focus on like, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't this like why didn't my execution of this game plan work? Because I think that will help you learn a bit faster, because like it just like from watching, it doesn't feel like you're necessarily trying to play towards like a game plan as much as like it feels more like an intuitive game plan of like you kind of are like aware of like what sort of works against Sheik.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also a player that just likes to hit buttons. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
aside from adding a lot of these new, like more, because I'm certainly analytical in a lot of other aspects of life. It's kind of strange that I never got too hard into melee
Mm-hmm.
or that bit. But I'm also trying to work on what just a lot of bad habits, classic things like just always double lasering from ledge, or
Mm-hmm.
coming down without drift or thought on my attack and getting shined out of shield, grabbed, dash back grabbed, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess I'm having trouble focusing on one of those or the other and what I'm trying to fix. The concept of mix-ups is still kind of nebulous to me. Can we talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so first I want to go into the thing you were just talking about, but hold the thought with the mix-ups.
Sure.
So in terms of improvement, like I think the more basic you can break things down, the better. So like in terms of like fixing like a bunch of bad habits, you should specifically focus on probably like one habit at a time, and be like, okay, every single time I'm on the ledge, I'm going to like ledge dash or something like that. And then like for like a whole day when you play the game, your focus is not primarily on almost anything else in the game except that when you go to ledge, you don't do a double laser. And like the habits will actually fix up quicker than you think, where if you try to focus on a bunch of different things, it becomes nearly impossible because you sort of spread yourself too thin and there's not enough mental energy to deal with all those different things at once.
Yeah,
And
I feel like I get distracted by thinking about I'll be focusing on one thing that I'm trying to work on in a matchup, and then I'll notice another thing that I've also already
yeah,
noted
yeah,
down.
always just
And
write
it's
it down and focus on the keep focusing on the first thing. And the other thing is like it's like I said, like you're kind of trying to like I don't know how to describe it. Mm, hmm. It's like trying to. It's like you're trying to like keep like a boat from sinking and there's like 5 different leaks, and so you're like, oh, I'll plug this one, and then you're like, oh, the other ones are still leaking, and you run over and you plug that one, but like the first one is like still leaking, you know? And it's like it's more important to like just sit there and focus and get the like the one leak completely fixed and then move on. And I think that it would help you to like a way to get rid of a lot of bad habits kind of quickly is to focus more on like a simple plan of like how you play, where like I am only going to do these things, because like you can't be doing bad habits if you're only doing the things that you consciously told yourself to do. Like it's not like what I'm telling you to do is not consciously layer these improvements on top of your play. You can't, that is a thing, and it's good to learn like that. What I'm telling you personally to do is to consciously play a very specific way only as practice.
That makes sense.
Like, rather than being like, okay, so I'm mostly just playing normal, and then in these situations I focus on this, because I think that just basically you need to accelerate yourself in, like you said, like lately you've been thinking a lot more about situations and game plans and stuff like that. I think you need to like further accelerate yourself in that direction by like extra letting go of the intuitive parts of your play, because the parts of your play that are intuitive and advantageous, it's easy to get those back later, but I think you need sort of like a reset in terms of like thinking of the game as like very cut and dry of like these specific situations work well for me and I'm going to focus on them, and then like reconnect that back to like your intuitive senses afterward.
Understood. I've had a similar thought about that in almost trying to pick up another character to try and like start the game anew.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that the direction that's coming from is really good, and I don't think you have to play a new character. What you can do is just play Falco as if you're picking up a new character, and in the sense of like, don't worry about getting 4-stocked. Like, focus on strictly like, I'm only going to play this situation, and anytime it's not that situation, I don't care what's happening. Like, you can play Falco very limited to sort of play him as if it's a different character from playing him. Like, this isn't obviously what I'm telling you to do, but for instance, like right now I'm playing Falco laserless for like a week or two. And
I've been there.
And I'm doing that to like heavily limit myself from trying to sort of cheat using lasers, because there's a lot of situations that I sort of intuitively use a laser in because it kind of helps me sometimes, but I don't really understand how to like space my aerials in those situations, and I always sort of just cheat using laser. So I'm sort of like treating it as like a different character I'm playing, which is laserless Falco, and sort of separating from like my intuition of like what goes where. Okay, now to get into mix-ups. The way mix-ups, so what can you explain, like maybe like just a little bit more about your perspective on like what you've heard about mix-ups, or like why it's confusing to you?
I guess like fundamentally, I think of a mix-up as just like different things that you can do in a situation, but it feels more complex when I hear other people talk about it, and I've tried to read as many things as I can and watch videos and stuff around it, but it either becomes, in my perspective, too simple or too complex, in that it's either just a different thing that you can do in a situation, or in a way it feels like a mix-up could be doing literally like anything different from
right okay,
that's a mix-up. So like obviously you could have the mix-ups of like laser and then approach and what the approach mix-ups are, but not approaching is also a mix-up. Like turning around and doing an up tilt or like a dare in place, if they decide to approach, I guess that's also a mix-up.
Okay. I think I get where you're coming from. So basically, the ideal form of a mix-up is something where it's the ideal form of like the most basic possible mix-up is the idea of a 50-50. And the idea of a 50-50 is, I am going to do A, and A kills you. And the person's like, okay, I do not want A to kill me. Therefore, I will do a thing to prevent A from killing me. And then you say, okay, sometimes then I am going to do B, and B will kill you if you do the counterplay to A. Or B will hit you, or whatever, if you do the counterplay to A. So, sort of like the most simple, obvious mix-up with Falco is like if you're comboing spacies, and you go up and they're way up high above the top platform, and you full hop from the top platform and shine them, and you want to go for shine up B, right? If you do the back air, and they serve, so like let's say you're gonna jump up there and you're gonna back air them, they want to survival DI the back air, because if they don't survival DI the back air, it'll either hit them so far off stage that they're probably not gonna make it back, or they die. So therefore, it's kind of like, and if there was no counterplay and the back air just killed every single time, like there's certain down air situations where the down air just kills every time, there's no need for a mix-up if you have a guaranteed kill. So but then let's say the back air doesn't kill if they survival DI, but it'll kill or get them far enough off stage that you can kill them. Like it works and it serves its purpose really well unless they survival DI. And so in that case you say, okay, well if you try to survival DI the back air and I shine you instead, then the shine up B will kill you. And so that creates a mix-up where if they don't survival DI and you back air, they die. If they do survival DI and you shine, they also die. And so that creates a 50-50. And it doesn't matter which one you choose there, you just sort of guess which one you think they'll do. Are they going to DI for the shine, or are they going to DI for the back air? And you have a 50% chance of killing them, and a 50% chance that they do the correct counterplay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the what actually kind of had a minor epiphany was more the thing you said about down airs, where there are situations where I guess you can mix up, but it's not a 50-50. You could just always kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like because I'm always, or since I have a weird definition of mix-ups in my mind still, I will use them in situations where maybe they're not as needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
but
then,
yeah, the DI mix-up, or that makes sense to me. Yeah, because they want to survival DI, but if they DI'd the shine, they go really far away. But of course, if they're DIing that way, the back air will kill faster.
So that is the most basic form of a mix-up, and the more options that people have, oftentimes the more complicated the mix-up gets. And so, like, there are situations, like if you're in neutral, each dash you do is technically a mix-up, but a lot of times it's too complicated to really think about in a way that's like meaningful, because the opponent can also be doing any option. So a lot of times things only break down into truly meaningful mix-ups when a situation is already simple enough to understand. So for instance, say I'm going to short hop down air onto Sheik, and then Sheik is let's say Sheik is already shielding, and let's say she's not shielding. It doesn't matter. Let's say you're in a situation, you're gonna down air onto Sheik. Then if Sheik wave dashes back, she will dodge the down air and she'll grab you. So this is like our assumed situation. I want to down air Sheik where she's standing. The down air, if the down air hits, that's good for me. That's what I care about. If she dashes back, or if she wave dashes back out of her standing position and she dodges the down air, she can grab me. That is bad. What beats that option? Lasering instead, because laser will beat her moving backwards to beat the down air. And so now you have that situation, but it's not that simple, because she can respond to your down air with things other than dash back or wave dash back. So she might have an option which is like, okay, so let's say she forward tilts. Forward tilt can beat both the approaching down air, and it can also beat the approaching laser. And so you say, okay, well, now I'm going to, instead of approaching with the down air or the laser, if I think she's going to forward tilt, instead I'll do dash back, then dash in into the down air. So when the opponent has a lot of options, and that's not even the complete situation, because when the opponent has a lot of options, such as standing directly next to you, the mix-ups are complicated because you have to take into account every possible option that the opponent could do. Or most of the time, it's every possible option that the opponent will reasonably do, like that are reasonably good. And so that's why neutral is complicated, because you basically, learn the idea of learning a matchup or learning the neutral game in a matchup is learning all the possible neutral options that your opponent can do, then figuring out what options of mine beat those options, and like what options of mine beat more than one option, and trying to figure out what is the best set of mix-ups that like optimally covers the most answers from his end. So then like eventually you end up with a pretty concise set of actions where it's like, if I do these actions, like maybe if I down air, it covers him crouching, it covers him jumping in certain situations at certain percents, like it covers like certain options. And so you figure out which options overall, based on all the things he could do together, have the highest rate of reward and lowest risk. And then those are primarily the actions that you guess sort of randomly or do based on a read that they have that you use in neutral.
That makes sense to me. And I feel like when I try to start thinking about that, I get like overloaded and I play slower.
Yeah, that's...
And so I'm trying to...
Never think about stuff like that in the game.
Yeah, and I've heard that, but I mean, at some point I have to be thinking about it.
Well, you always want to think about that stuff outside the game. Then you come up with which options are part of like your sort of basket of mix-ups. And then when you're in the game, you just sort of pull things out of the basket. And then when things don't work, then you say like, huh, that's weird. And it's kind of like a back to the drawing board moment, but you don't go back to the drawing board while you're in like a fist fight, You go back to the drawing board like afterward.
That makes sense.
But that's why it's very important to like think about the game a lot outside of the game and have like very defined mix-ups of like how you want to play against a character. Because then if those things aren't working, you say, wait a minute, I do this half the time and I do this half the time, but he does this option and that just kind of beats both of my options there. And so that's not a solid mix-up. So what move can I do that beats his option, and then how can I mix that up? So yes, it is complicated, but so a lot of times what you want to do is start with situations that happen a lot. Like, for instance, Marth keeps dashing away and grabbing me, Like, that's a really common issue that people have. So you start with what beats those options, and then you see what options he has that beat those options. So it's kind of like, it does get overwhelming, but you can break it down and pick simple situations, and then gather information and see what works and what doesn't from that. So it's like, you don't have to just raw theory it out. You come up with some basic theory, and then you test it in the game and figure out its efficacy that way.
Yeah, and the testing in the game part still has like me getting into some level of thought, and I guess maybe I don't get out of it quick enough. But that's my own thing where I'll like well, I guess the dash back example is easy, and so like I'll do a dash neutral jump or something, where it's I guess like a feint, and then I can try and punish the grab. But if the I don't know if the Marth's been doing that like 3 times and all of a sudden he decides to fair me, it kind of just puts me in like what am I supposed to do to beat fair when I think I'm supposed to be beating dash back, and like then I start getting like stuck in my head.
Right. No, that is not even like a you thing. That is just how it works when the situations aren't like, you want to break it down more like math homework and less like it's good to write things down, and it's good to think of specifics. Like, so it's like, okay, so what beats, Marth fairing? It's like, oh well, nair, like delayed nair after his fair will beat Marth fairing. And then so you're like, okay, so how do I know when he's going to fair or when he's going to, dash back? But the thing I want to make clear is that these are complicated situations. It's not like on you for like struggling with them. Like, these are situations that are really complicated, like in basic neutral, where like the top players are still very unsure about these and kind of go back and forth because it is very complicated to figure out the like optimal set of mix-ups to do in neutral. That is very difficult. So the best you can do is just sort of figure out the basics, like you're saying, like, oh, I can do this empty hop, and then if he dashes back, it'll work. And then sort of like set up like a basic intuitive model for that, like you've already done, but you can kind of solve it backwards from the most simple situations, like edgeguard flowcharts or sharking flowcharts, things like that. Like, you can figure out situations where these things are simpler as you like, and those things can inform your understanding of neutral mix-ups. But like, neutral is like incredibly complicated, and like, don't worry about it when you kind of get stuck in like those like mental. It's kind of like you like open, you're like, oh, what about this? And what about this? What about this? And your brain kind of goes too many, and it just shuts down. Like, that's not on you. That's just like how it works to think about neutral. That happens to everyone. It happens to me. Like, that's just how it is. And it's sort of like about breaking like finding what situations come up the most often, and like thinking of the direct way to beat those. And then when you fail and you get hit out of that, figure out how to beat the next thing. And then when you mix up those two things, what do they do to beat those two things? And it's sort of like you gain these experiences and you slowly like plug them into where they're good. But that's neutral. And a lot of situations aren't true neutral. A lot of times you do end up in these situations where the opponent only has 2 or 3 mix-ups, or 2 or 3 possible options, or you have 2 or 3 possible options. For instance, like, are you as Falco going to side B onto stage, or are you going to side B shorten to edge? That is a 50-50 mix-up that you're going to do. How does your opponent cover those? Those are situations that are simple enough that you won't get overwhelmed thinking about them, and you can improve that, and it'll slowly improve your understanding of the more complicated mix-ups.
Makes sense.
But I think we're basically like at time. It's been a little bit over time, but it's not too big of a deal.
Yeah, I actually have 2. I don't think this will be too deep. It was just 2 tech skill related questions.
Yeah, go for it.
And it was around how often, of course, about like the Sammy Nair or Sammy aerials.
Yeah.
So that was something that I didn't really know back when I played in really until about, I want to say, August.
Mm-hmm.
I always tried to time my fast fall after hit lag.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see situations where people, like other Falcos, will do early dares and still not get like shined out of shield, and I have to imagine that they're the question is basically like, do you try and always do the fast fall early, and like when do you not? When do you want to do an early aerial into like fast fall after hit lag?
Okay, so the simplest way to describe it is that, like, obviously there's more to it because shield pressure and stuff like that can be complicated.
Yeah.
But this, in the simplest terms, let's say you shine some guy's shield, and you have already decided you're going to do an aerial afterward. You're not going to double shine or whatever. Inevitably, usually you end up aerialing at some point. Like, let's say you do shine, and then you try to do a Sammy dare after, like a short hop. You start the dare, you fast fall before it hits. After that, he has time before the down air comes out. He has time before the down air comes out to, shine at a shield or aerial at a shield or whatever. Like, let's say you shine Sheik's shield, and then you try to do a late dare on Sheik's shield, she can just hit you out of the dare before it comes out because you have to short hop and then dare fast fall, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But let's say she does that. So like let's say like you do it twice. You do shine, and you do the late dare. She's still shielding because she's afraid you're gonna do fast shield pressure. So she's still shielding, and then you do the late dare, and she goes, I still got caught in shield. And then you shine, and then you get ready to do a late dare again. She hits you out of it. So then what you can do as a mix-up is you can do shine early dare, because if the opponent is expecting you to do the late dare, they will do an action after the shine and then get hit by the early dare. So
that makes sense.
It's basically the answer is that it's a mix-up where like if you do the early dare, so you want to figure out which one they're expecting based on, you know, how you've conditioned them and the spacing and all that kind of stuff. But that's basically it. Is like if you can get the latest dare, you want that. But if people are expecting the late one, the early one is better a lot of times. But the thing with the early one is a lot of times if you don't space it right, then they can like shield it. Like if they stay shielding, they can actually punish you. So
that I know all about.
Yeah, and so it gets really complicated, and I'm sure you understand that. So, but that's basically the answer to your question.
Yeah, and then the other one was just what do you look out for when you're trying to shine out a shield other species as Falco, or even as Fox, really? Like, do you try and are you looking at where they're hitting on shield, or is there like specific distances of seeing where their aerials come out? I just
yeah. So usually
I feel like I struggle with shine out of shield a lot.
Usually, what I'll do is the very first time I shield something that the Falco does, or like let's just say Falco does, the very first time that I shield it, I just hold shield. I just like hold shield and just sit there and I see what they do. And most Falcos will have a pattern where they'll be like dare, double shine, dare, or something like that, or dare, double shine, wave dash down, shine dare, or something like that. And almost all Falcos will kind of do like they kind of show their hand of like this is the type of tech skill that I do on shield. So I'll usually hold shield for like a second or two and then I'll just roll out. And then based on what type of pressure they did, based on whether they do a double shine, etc., then I will try to do the counter to that next time and see if they mix it up.
I was thinking less about like shield pressure directly on you, but let's say like in the Ditto, they shoot a laser, I put up my shield, and then they approach with an aerial, and well, I guess that's on the opponent to be playing bad. Is kind of the answer to my question. What do you mean? Well, so like if they laser and then approach because I'm in shield. And it's an aerial that I am capable of shining out of shield. How do I build a reaction to do that against somebody like doing a bad or early aerial on me? Or recognizing the difference between, you know what? I'm kind of answering my question.
Yeah, well, it's basically
it
like the cue for noticing when the opponent does like a late enough aerial that you can't shine out of shield is like kind of like I don't know. Most of the time, I think I just sort of recognize like I react to my opponent hitting my shield with an aerial early. So I know it seems obvious, but it's basically like if they shine me. And then I get hit immediately after the shine, I know that is an early aerial. Like 99, like unless they're just gonna be doing another shine, you know. But like a lot of times it's like if they do like shine, and then I immediately detect the third hit, I know that that's something I can shine out of shield. Whereas like if they do shine, like it's kind of like think of it kind of like music, kind of, or like a rhythm, where they'll be like shine, hit. And then you know that's an early one, or shine, hit, shine. Then you go, oh, that was like a late one, and I missed the punish on the late one. So then the next time when they come in and they do shine, hit, you hit them immediately. Or they go shine, and then immediately after the shine, you guess that they're going to delay it, and then you hit them. But it's basically just guessing. But what I like to do is I kind of try to figure out what they can do, and I usually try to roll out first and try to figure out if I can get out of their pressure first, and then once I know how to get out of their pressure, I'll worry about trying to punish it, unless it's like a really obvious bad aerial. 1 second.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm finishing up the lesson. Okay.
Well, yeah, we're definitely over. So that was fun.
It's okay. I can just we can just, I think an hour and 20 minutes, and we can just count it as that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any final questions beside that?
No, those are good. That give me I'll definitely be reviewing this and the little notes that I have and everything.
Okay,
Help me out.
cool. Yeah. Hope you have a good one, man. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
All
Thanks.
right, see ya.